All right. Well, I just wanted to say welcome to everybody and thank you so much for joining. It is just wonderful to be able to see everybody and to connect again in these moments when we don't get to come to church together. And I'm grateful for all of the hard work of a lot of folks to put this together and to be able to have a conversation with everybody. And today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the amazing experiences that the missionaries and various members of our congregation are having by working together in this environment where social distancing is making it so that we can't do meetings at the church and we can't do meetings in people's homes. But yet, amazingly, the work of the Lord is still going forward, and it's a wonderful blessing to be able to see it and to be able to participate in it. And so we'll have an opportunity to have a fairly informal discussion, but a handful of members that have been working with the missionaries closely. There are many more than this, but a few that have been helping out have graciously agreed to take a few minutes and be part of a panel discussion, a virtual panel discussion with us today. Really, just to kick things off, I wanted to just ask a few questions of the missionaries, and then I'm going to broaden the conversation to a few other folks after that. And so, elders, this is a strange and interesting environment for you to be serving as a missionary, and I'm wondering if you could just talk with us for just a minute about how it's working, what you're doing, how you're able to even connect with people to start teaching and all those kinds of things in this unique environment. Would you mind talking a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, of course. So when the quarantine first started, we were a little confused on how we were going to press the work forward. And then our mission president, President Kaplan, we had a little meeting, and all of us as the Mission Leadership Council, we all put our heads together and we decided to go through. We have an app called Area Book, and that has all the people that we're teaching, anybody who showed interest in the past or currently is showing interest. We have the contact information, and what we can do is we can go through and we can call all those friends and we can start teaching them virtually.
Let me just ask elders, what's the reaction you get when you reach out to folks and call them? I'm sure it's a bit of a mix, right?
Yeah, it's just like how it was before. When we knock on someone's door, you don't know how they're going to respond. It's very similar with calling people on the phone, but it can be a lot of fun. We do get a lot of people. I would say the rejection's a little bit less, honestly. We get a lot of people that are interested in talking with us just because we've been talking so much about how this time has really shaken up a lot of people's lives and they're looking for something more in their lives. And so we've seen a lot of success and a lot of people be open to us. We have, like Ellery said, we have our area books in our phones that have anywhere between 100 and 400 phone numbers of people that we can call. So we have a lot of work to do and a lot of people that we found who we've been teaching. The work is still going forward, and it's going forward faster than it was before when we were out knocking on doors. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a baptism for one of our friends in the YSA ward that we taught. We found her in the quarantine, and we taught her all through the quarantine over technology, and then she got baptized. So it's just amazing to see how the Lord's work is still moving forward.
Yeah, that's been one of the neatest things for me to be able to see and participate in. Is all of the amazing interaction that you're having with these people, and to just hear from you when you guys reach out each evening. The many people that are excited to have a conversation about the Savior and His gospel. And so, can you just outline for us just a little bit how are members playing a role in this unique situation?
Member involvement has most definitely increased. We've seen an increase in it, and we've had members at lessons where sometimes it was just a conference call and we were just teaching over the phone. We've had many video lessons like this where we teach through a video call, and a member is able to join us either through, well, it depends on what app the friend is using. A member is able to join us. And for the Sabbath services, we typically try to hold them on Zoom, but in some circumstances, there's an app called WhatsApp, and we've held several services over that app as well. So members are definitely playing a role in the work.
Not only that, also in our Sabbath services that we've been talking about, because we aren't able to go to church, our friends at first, they weren't able to have those spiritual experiences on the Sabbath day with us. And so what the prophet and the area presidency came out with is that we can do these video calls where a member can host, one or a couple of our friends and share a message. And we've seen a lot of our friends really enjoy doing that. I don't think we've had a friend who's joined one of those who hasn't left feeling good about, their day, or haven't had a spiritual experience from one of those. So it's just a blessing to be able to have members, more involved in the work, because it really is helping with our friends and their progression towards the covenant path.
And can I ask about a specific situation? I know that there's, often what you're doing is, in order to share the scriptures with somebody, you help them download the scriptures so they can read them at home. But that's not always been the case. There's been times when somebody wanted a hard copy of the Book of Mormon, for example. And it's been interesting to figure that out. How did you make that work?
So when a friend requests a physical copy of either the Book of Mormon or the Bible, we take note of that first, and we get their address if we don't have their address. And then we'll find a member who is willing to take that copy to them, and we schedule with the member for them to come to our residence, and we typically leave it either on the front step or in the mailbox. So we schedule a time for them to come pick that up, and then once they pick that up, then we'll let the friend know that the member with the copy is going to be delivering that to them within the next day or so.
Mm-hmm. And that's been such a big blessing. That's one of the biggest things that members have done for us. It's been such a huge help, is being able, because we do have some friends that don't have smartphones, or they don't, they don't know how to download stuff, and we try to walk them through it, but it's just not working. So, and a lot of times they like to just have that physical copy, and it's a big blessing to them to be able to have that. So that's another way that members are such a big help during this time.
Well, that's great. So I want to bring in some of the members that have been participating in some of this to get their experience as well, and to hear a little bit from them. And so, and I know in particular, you talked about some of these virtual Sunday services that you've been doing. I've been able to participate in some of those, and it's been a wonderful experience, including the individual that you mentioned that just was recently baptized. She attended a few of the Sunday services that I did, and just getting to know her was just a privilege, and seeing her excitement for the gospel, and being able to talk about how the gospel has helped in our lives, in my family, it was a great blessing. And so let me just ask about, let's start with the Smiths. And if you could give us just a little bit about what your experience has been in participating in some of these Sunday meetings.
The elders have just reached out and they said, hey, we have a friend that would like to join a Sunday service, and they give us their contact information, and we reach out to them and invite them and let them know. We've kind of set up just a reoccurring Zoom meeting. So every Sunday at 11 is when we have our church meetings, and we just welcome anyone to come and join. And it's been fun. I think it's been nice that that we have that, and it's encouraged our family to make sure that we're prepared and make sure that we actually dress up. And we're more motivated to do that. And we've seen the blessings of having the Spirit in our meetings.
Yeah, our schedule on a Sunday morning is usually, let the kids eat some breakfast. We kind of get ready. At 10:40, we have our sacrament portion of our Sunday service. So between 10:40 and 11 is when, we'll have a sacrament hymn. We'll do the sacrament. And then, just before 11, we'll get the computer ready. And we're signed on at 11, ready to go. And, as is usual with, missionary work, people aren't on time always. I guess that's not just missionary work. It's probably most Sunday meetings anyway, right? So, they're on time, but we typically budget, between 11 and 11:30. And, if everybody's there right away at 11, we'll get started. But, the fact is that we're ready to go at 11. Like today we had a friend jump on at 11:10, and she had let us know that they were going to be a little late, but it's fine. We're just kind of waiting there, and we prepare a little lesson that probably takes about 10 minutes at max, and we'll sing. We'll start out by singing a hymn and doing a prayer, and then the lesson, and then singing a hymn and doing a prayer. We try to keep it that format. I don't think that you always have to do a hymn and a prayer. I would recommend doing those types of things because it really does bring the spirit in. But for us, obviously, the most important part of Sunday service is the sacrament, and we do that before the meeting, so we don't have to treat it just like a normal, typical sacrament meeting. And I think that is a little bit of a freedom in helping out the missionaries with the friends that join on. Is that you don't have to do announcements and then a prayer and then a song and then a prayer and then the sacrament meeting and follow a strict guideline. Like, you can be flexible to meet the needs of whoever's on there as it is, and it can be short, it can be long. I think that most people just kind of like a nice, good, inspiring, quick message, and about half an hour's been our target time.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all our kids can handle too. and it's nice because if our friends have kids, we try, if we're getting our kids involved and asking them questions, we try and get the kids and the friends involved too, to ask them their thoughts.
No, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was one of my specific questions is, church with children can be challenging in the first place, but when it's done over a remote connection like this, it can be interesting to figure out. What are some of the tricks you've discovered?
Feed them before. Feed them before. Because the elders are probably laughing because they've seen a couple weeks, like the kids will run off a camera and come back with a bag of popcorn, and they're just eating during the meeting, and we're like, what are you doing?
Their wrappers.
This was 20 minutes. You couldn't last 20 minutes. So our goal is to feed them before, make sure that they've had their snacks and they're ready to go. And again, I think if you keep it short and engaging, that helps a lot. Emily today was just a wiggle monster, and I don't think that there's anything that you're going to do to prevent wiggle monsters. You just got to work with it as best as you can.
I'm sure our friends and missionaries have seen me give some mother eyes. It's just like any other church service, right? But
yeah.
If we feed them beforehand, and we do try to make sure it's not just like us talking or one person talking, we do try to get, ask questions of the kids so that they don't start to zone off.
Today we had Sophie give the lesson.
Our 13-year-old.
Our 13-year-old. So, I think if you've got some teenagers in the houses, make them give a lesson. It's 5 minutes. It's like a talk, they can, and it's an interactive talk. So it's not even that difficult. They can ask questions. So I spent some time this morning working with Sophie on preparing the lesson, and she gave it and did a great job with it. And so that was kind of another way that we got them involved. I think maybe getting Ryan to do the lesson might be a little more challenging. I don't know if we'll do that, but Sophie being 13, why not? Why not have her do it?
And the easiest thing is we just pull out "Come Follow Me" and pick one of the topics, because it's already right there for us. The scriptures are there. We know it's inspired from our leaders, and we just go from there and then add our own thoughts and experiences to it.
Oh, so wonderful. And the resources that we have to help with this through Come Follow Me and so many other things, we found the same thing. We've focused a lot on what we've shared right out of that Come Follow Me booklet that we have. And it's great because we've already been learning all week about it. And so as we're going around sharing, everybody has an idea and a thought that they've learned from the week they can share, and it, I think, encourages participation even more. What about Hans? Let's make sure we have Hans give an opportunity to just share a little bit. What has your experience been like in participating in some of these virtual meetings with the missionaries?
All right. I've had a great time with the missionaries. I totally support them and have sympathy for them right now during this coronavirus time. I served my mission in Italy, and I know there are good times and hard times, and it's just so I totally have, when the missionaries call and ask me to do a Sabbath service, I am willing to do it. And for the last 2 months, I've given a Sabbath service every Sunday with the missionaries. And the missionaries would send me a text during the week and ask me to, if I would like to host a Sabbath day service. And they'd list some of their friends and telephone numbers, invite me to reach out to them. And then I'd call them, send them a text message, and invite them to the Sabbath day service. It's been a good opportunity to bring my boys in, Gavin and Garrett, and let them share their testimonies of the gospel. And that's really good for them. And I've brought in my wife, Jody, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, all to participate in these conferences at some point over the last 2 months. But every Sunday, about 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock, we host a Sabbath day service, and we try to keep them less than 20 minutes because you don't want to go too long on that. And we have prayers, we share testimonies, we have a lesson, and try to bring out the spirit and just promote the cause of the missionaries in their efforts with the gospel in our ward in the area. So I'm willing to do anything for the missionaries. When they call, I say yes and ask, how can I help?
No, that's wonderful. And I think that's been the response from the members of our ward far and wide, is just the willingness to participate has been an amazing thing to see. Can I ask, so the Smiths had kind of a standard format they followed each time that helped them. And have you settled into a rhythm on how you do this, or do you change it up each week?
We usually start with a prayer. We do not have a hymn. Our voices will not allow for that. But we have a very brief lesson, like on the Book of Mormon. And then we'd share, what I like to emphasize is put more time into having everybody share their testimonies. I would start, share my testimony about the Book of Mormon. Then I'd go around and ask everybody else to take a minute or two and give us their thoughts on the Book of Mormon, scripture reading. Everybody can have the opportunity to participate in the lesson. And that's kind of been my format.
Oh, that's great. And you can see that each person that's been involved in this has done it a little bit differently depending upon their specific family needs. In our family, we've included music, because I have some kids that really like to sing, and so they've done kind of mini special musical numbers, basically, where they've done a song. But each family's circumstances are going to be a little bit different about how old your kids are and what they can and can't do and how they can participate. And so I think that is great to just kind of hear about the adaptations that people have had. I wanted to just give a minute to others on that are participating with us today. If someone else has a question they wanted to ask about how this has worked or about how missionary work is going during this time, feel free to chime in and speak up. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, so I have a question. So right now the missionaries are basically just using the members of our ward for Sunday services. Is that just about it, or?
And lessons.
And lessons, okay. And that's via Zoom or some other type of a social platform.
Yeah, any type of video call or phone calling app. We can even do conference calls.
So elders, why don't you take a second and just tell us about, not this Sunday service, but a lesson when you have a member participate. How does that go? What does the member do?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very similar to how it was before. We bring the member along. They help us teach. We can talk about specific points that we want the member to teach or to help us teach, and then it's very nice to have a member's testimony, because a lot of times our friends see us, and sometimes, we wear the white shirt and tie and the name tag. We don't always seem like normal people. What we do is a little bit different. So having a member there, someone who can fellowship and just bear their testimony, has been very beneficial for our friends. So really the role of a member before and after the quarantine is very similar. It's just over technology now.
That's great. Did anybody else have any questions or any other questions?
Well, I have a follow-on. So
Great.
So for everyone's knowledge, instead of we used to call investigate. Well, friends were investigators. Now they are called friends, just for everyone's vocabulary purposes in the mission field. So how many lessons do you think you're teaching each week then?
That's a great question. If we had to guess, we're probably teaching 2 or 3 a day, sometimes more. Sometimes we've taught up to 5 or 6 lessons a day. But yeah, I couldn't give you an exact number. If I had to guess, it'd be about 2 or 3 a day.
Okay, yeah, I remember my mission. I always made it a point to make sure that I always had a member at each lesson. Picking a member was, a little bit different in the sense that choosing which members had similar interests versus similar age group versus a whole bunch of different aspects. So you definitely have a whole bunch here on this call. There's 17 of us. Hopefully that we can definitely help you with all your lessons, or at least get one of us on.
That's great. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I just wanted to follow up on the music comment that Brother Wild made. Some of us are not musically gifted. I benefit from my wife and daughter, who are much more musically gifted than myself and can carry the singing very much for our family. But if you're not musically gifted and you want to still use the music ability, you can use on your phone, you can use the church music app, or even through the library app from the church. You can get into the hymns and you can play the songs, and they actually have people singing them in there. So if you just wanted to even listen together to a hymn and then have a prayer afterwards and not have to sing, that's always an option as well.
That's a great idea.
How receptive have the friends been to these the family Sunday gatherings?
Well, I'll start with my experience. People have really, really responded very positively. We have people that have been participating over several weeks, and they look forward to it. The comments that they make during the conversation, they're clearly engaged and involved. I've also reached out to not just those that are interacting with the missionaries and taking lessons from them, but I've invited sometimes other members of our ward from our congregation to come and participate in different weeks, and they've had a wonderful experience as well. And they've reached out to me and asked what they can do next time and how they can participate. And so it's been pretty positive from my perspective. I don't know, Smiths or Hans, anything you'd add to that?
I didn't have something right off the top of my head.
So our experience has been, that when we've reached out to folks, they've been tentatively receptive to coming. I mean, they said, "Oh yeah, we'd like to come. We're thinking about it." One friend in particular, I think, usually has to work during our time, and his schedule is a little off and on. So he'll say, "I think I can make it," but then Sunday morning he's like, "I'm working, I can't make it." So we can tell that he's interested in doing it. We've had some other folks that have sort of been lukewarm, I'd say, about jumping on, and so it hasn't been like a consistent thing with each of them. But we're just happy if anybody's there. So
yeah, and I've actually started reaching out to my ministering sisters to invite them too, because how fun is that to just get together with our friends and do a church service together?
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that. I was just going to suggest too that it might be good to start thinking about doing groups of even active families, so that when you are bringing in some of these friends, they can see that it's sort of a big group participation rather than sort of a one-on-one. I mean, I think that some people would benefit from that, but some also may benefit from knowing that there's like more than just one family out there participating in the Sunday service as well.
Some may not. Some may want more of that intimate kind of feeling, but I think it would be good just as a practice, you know, to go through the whole Zoom meeting with somebody else.
That's great. Hans, were you going to add anything on that?
Well, when I reach out to, the missionaries send me a text with about 3 or 4 friends and their telephone numbers, and the missionaries ask me to call them, and I do. And when I'm able to reach them, usually it's almost a positive conversation every time. Sometimes I can't get through. I leave a voicemail message. Sometimes I will leave. Most of the time, I send a text to everybody and invite them to the Sabbath day service. And I receive responses to the text messages too. So it's just trying to get that communication out there and invite them. And it's always been very positive. I've had no bad experiences with reaching out to them. So it's all been good.
Great. Any last questions from anybody?
I'll just make a quick comment. I'm not as experienced as the Smiths or as Hans, but we've done a couple of them, and I've been surprised at how easy it was and how well they went. I was surprised at how well the meetings went. It's not as good as being in person, sitting in the same room, but I found it's an effective way to communicate, an effective way to teach, an effective way to talk with our friends and ask them what they're feeling or asking if they have comments. So anybody who's a little hesitant to do that, I would say go ahead and do it. At least my experience was it turned out better than I thought it would.
So it sounds like you're being more interactive also with these sessions.
Yeah, I've tried to make ours interactive and make them discussions. For me to sit here and just look at somebody on a screen and I'm talking and they're just sitting there, I don't like that. So, but to make it interactive, for me, works better than a lecture. But I think that depends on somebody's individual style and how comfortable they are. I'm just not comfortable to talking to somebody and not getting some kind of a reaction.
I think for us, it's just, we're going to have our church service together anyways. And so just having someone join us through a video it's no different.
It's just an extra step, but not a big deal.
Yeah, it's been super simple, super easy, and it makes it more fun.
So let's ask a question just as we're thinking through. So there are many folks that are participating with us today that have participated in these kinds of things with the missionaries, and maybe there are some that haven't yet but really would be interested in doing that. I know I would be perfectly happy to hear from anyone that's interested. You can just reach out to me, Eric Talbot, and I'd be happy to get you connected with the missionaries. But elders, is there a way that you would prefer folks to reach out to you if they're interested in helping out?
So probably the best way to reach out to us is either through Brother Talbot, the word leader, or calling or texting us directly. That would probably be the best way.
That's great. And I've discovered that the elders are pretty responsive and pretty quick to get back on text when I'm communicating with them. And whether it's planning for one of these meetings or any other issues that we're working through. Well, good. Any last thoughts from anybody before we or questions before we close?
So far, not too bad. We are able to hold sacrament meetings, and we do have discussions after sacrament meeting. We spend some time, allow the kids ask questions, and then we read scriptures and kind of try to explain to them, even though we are in this, let me call predicament, it's an opportunity to keep, walking on the Savior's path. And sometimes it gets challenging doing it with kids, but taking the effort is much more important. Letting them know that not congregating as a whole body doesn't mean learning the scriptures is over or partaking the sacrament is over. And I think they are getting hands-on and then learning as we go along. So it's a good thing. I haven't been able to reach out with the missionaries and participate in these things, but I'm hoping to get some time and then get these things going. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I'm glad you're having such a great experience. And I know that the missionaries would love to include you in anything that they're doing. Well, good. Maybe we'll just do a last call for questions from anyone.
I'm wondering how many of the ward members know that they have capabilities to see who the missionaries are teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Elders, do you want to show us a little bit about that just briefly, if you have a second?
Yes, I'm not sure how. I'm pretty sure just the ward council can see who we're teaching. I don't think the whole ward has access to that. But basically what you do is you go into LDS tools and then you go to, it's in one of the reports, and it will show the missionary progress record. It'll show the friends that we're teaching. It'll show a little bit of their background, what they've been taught, you know, what lessons, and then any help that we need from members. But I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure the ward council and the ward mission are the main members that can see that.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. The progress record is available to the ward council, the leadership in the ward, and anybody else that's working directly in their calling with the ward mission. And the advantage of that is that if anybody else is interested, you have a lot of resources to get involved. You can reach out directly to the missionaries. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to anybody else that is in a leadership position, like our Elders Quorum president or our Relief Society president, and we can help you get connected and become part of this. Let me just close with a few thoughts. For me, it's just been an amazing miracle, really, to watch how the work has continued and gone forward and thrived in these unique circumstances. I initially thought that it was going to be impossible for the missionaries to do any teaching or for us to reach out to individuals to include them in Sunday activities, because there were no formal Sunday activities taking place. But my experience has been over the last several months is there are so many people that are interested in talking to the missionaries. This is the Lord's work, and his hand is involved, and he guides people to us. He guides people to the missionaries, and they have an opportunity to learn and grow by interacting with the missionaries and to feel the Spirit. And people are accepting the gospel. It was wonderful to participate with the missionaries as they were working with an individual that was preparing for baptism, and to see that person experience growth and to get to know that person a little bit better was a huge blessing for my life. And it strengthened my testimony that this is the Lord's work and that it continues, and that there is really no obstacle that can stop it. Because why? Because our Heavenly Father loves us, and he wants to have a relationship with us. He wants to be involved in our lives, and that goes for every single one of his children. And so I wanted to just share that wonderful experience that I've been having with everybody as a way to close, and thank everyone for participating. Thank the elders, and thank Hans and the Smiths for being part of our panel discussion, and everybody that asked questions today. That was great. And so thank you everyone again. We'll wrap up, and we look forward to interacting with everybody next week with our next call that we have. We're going to be doing these each week. And so everyone have a good rest of your Sunday. We'll talk to you all later.